Okay, a huge part of what I'm going to call try too hard syndrome occurs when home recording guys try to jam in 10,000 tracks into a section that maybe needs eight or eight elements, we'll call it, if or four or two or whatever. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten where I don't feel compelled anymore to do it that way, and this can actually go a little bit against that whole what I'm going to call band politics, where I know if there's a part that's just not working, now I just mute it. And when I show the band the mix, I will say that part wasn't working and listen to how much better it sounds without it. And I don't feel really all that bad about it. I think I'm doing the song justice. Now, it gets a little bit tricky because sometimes a guy really liked his part and really wants that in there and that kind of thing. And so that can really be a disaster. But I always go for the song first, and then we can play politics second. Okay, so let me kind of give you an example here. There's two things in particular that were leaping out on me in this particular part. This song, this part of the song, we're kind of doing a country rock thing, and it needs to just leap out and kind of explode and say, we're not in country land anymore. At least not really. So let's take a listen.
Now that's a lot to pay. They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppet dog. You'll see. Not long till I'll be gone running these streets. God knows this will never last, Brother John, I won't let it be.
Okay, now that's the part, and I don't like that. Not really. It sounds. I was supposed to go just for doom, all out, violent, just obscene sides there. At least that's what I was picturing in my head. And what I noticed is there are two things that were kind of ticking me off. One, the bass, it's okay, but what I noticed is we had nowhere to go afterwards. Meaning when the next part kicks in, there was no good transition. We got this big kick drum going, bow, 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 bow. And so it didn't make sense to fight that so much. So I said, you know what? I'm going to make the creative leap here to mute that. And that's not entirely what I'd call clutter necessarily. It's just it was a creative choice to remove stuff to make the whole thing sound bigger. So let's take a listen to like this last half with the bass. Well, the first half, I guess, is okay. With the bass muted.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppet dog. You'll see.
And what I noticed when I came up with this idea, because I don't know if I'm going to be able to sell this to the band or not. They may veto it, and I'm cool with that. I'll put it back in, and we'll fight about it, or we'll make it work. But the first thing I noticed is when the bass is gone, instead of this part necessarily driving, like we're already somewhere, I'm feeling tension. I feel a buildup, as if we're getting ready to go somewhere. Something's about to happen. And it actually kind of coincides with the lyrics, too, like I'm built up in a cage or whatever the hell he says. It doesn't really matter, but to me, it added a new element. And that's something that I don't know if they teach you in Mixing 101 or even in Mixing 401 and all the kinds of, dumbass sidechain tutorials or, you know what I'm talking about, advanced stuff. They don't talk about that if you want something bigger, sometimes you just need to mute. If you want your mix bigger, you might want to just mute a few tracks. It's amazing what that does. Now, also, let's check out the payoff on this particular song. And then we kind of get a conclusion. That this song is structured real strange. That's not really a chorus there. I don't know what that little part is, but to me it feels like we want a battle, if not the war. So I really like the way that bass feels, and listen to it with the bass back in, going into our battle as one section. It works, but it does not work nearly as well, in my opinion. We get something when a bass comes back in. Now, we got the politics of dealing with the bass player, but I know him. I don't bully him around. Okay, now we have other stuff cluttering this up. I want this to be big. This was in a what is it? Def Leppard, not Behind the Music, classic albums is on Netflix. Watch that if you're so inclined. And they're talking about one of the big things that they were keen on I guess it's Hysteria. It has to sound good in arenas. So I don't know if you guys have seen Slayer in a big place. It works. Well, I don't know if it works or not. They do it. But when you got a 5-second reverb time and you're going 200 beats per minute, that can be problematic. So what you do is you simplify your stuff and you make everything more distinct and more clear. Now let's take a look at this acoustic guitar. It was bugging me too. At this point, I'm not in like micromanagement detail like I would have been yesterday when I was doing this mix. But right now, well, let's just listen. I don't need to go on a big rant here.
They can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a pup.
Okay, here's what I got a little. What happened was it didn't feel right, and I had my big sounds, but things weren't what I liked. And particularly if I soloed the vocals, electric guitar, and drums, I was like, yeah. Well, then I turned the solo button off, like globally here in Cubase, a little button I have up the top here, and all of a sudden it felt junky. And so I asked myself what instruments are new that I was missing, in my original assessment, and it was the acoustic guitar. So I went back and I listened to the song, and I said, listen here, Mr. Acoustic Guitar, what do you do? What is your purpose? And I didn't get an answer. He had nothing to say. So take a listen here and ask yourself, what is this acoustic guitar doing? And I'll even turn it up just a little bit more, just to say we did, just for to be thorough. All right, take a listen, and you tell me what the acoustic guitar is achieving here.
Hey, they can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppet dog. You'll see. Now
All right, now let me mute it entirely there, so we can now A-B, and you tell me with this acoustic guitar, what's missing about this acoustic guitar.
they can try all they want, but they can't keep me tied up like a puppet dog. You'll see. Now
And my answer is acoustic guitar didn't do a damn thing, and it was just cluttering it up and making it harder to hear my vocals, which I wanted this distorted sound, which might be not be as articulate as we want to be. It might be a little bit, the whole point of it is to be a little nasty, and that makes it harder to hear. Anyway, I didn't see any reason, so I muted it. And this goes back to, again, band politics, but in this particular case, I'm very confident I'll have no problem selling this, because when we were doing these acoustic tracks, we didn't know how much we would use. And the band boss, singer guy, was very cool with me, just saying, do what you got to do. And I told him to go ahead and play through all this stuff. Play it hardcore and strum it really hard so we can really hear the attack of that acoustic. And I don't think that was a bad move, but it ended up not being right in the mix to me. And he won't care. There are going to be some guys band guys that just automatically throw parts down. I mean, and we want 75 tracks on this song. And, generally speaking, you guys know how stupid band people are. You've probably dealt with them for years. That can be a real short-sighted thing that may not make sense in the context of the mix. And this is something you're going to gain as you get more skill and more confidence and just more balls, more heft to what you do. People were more likely to listen to you. So if you don't have that kind of confidence now, you will. And, man, life is much better when you actually can, get your way. Maybe they call that power. Maybe I should move to Wall Street. Anyway, so you kind of get the idea. The point here is look for clutter, is what I'm going to call it. And you can find any piece of clutter anytime by, if you remove it, things get better or you don't miss it. If you don't miss something when it's gone, forget about it. Kind of like that brother you haven't seen in, say, 4 years, and you maybe don't really think about him much. You don't need him. Forget about him. Maybe not. I don't know. But anyway, I think my biggest thing is being skeptical. Be skeptical of deleting it, but also be skeptical of having it in there. And bounce back and forth, and you'll figure it out. Stay classy, planet Earth.